Welcome to the Untold Civil War, and here it is, our trip to Gettysburg for the 52nd annual Civil War Relic show. The show was put on by Brendan, the Union drummer boy, and I've got to say, what a fantastic job that he did, and you're about to see some video footage from that show. It was a very, very wonderful experience. Of course, Gettysburg in general is a wonderful experience. Visiting the battlefield, visiting the eateries, the little shops, even the pubs. It's a very, very good time. I've never had a bad time at Gettysburg. It's always good to go there, visit the battlefield, bump into fans of the show, and even speak with like-minded Civil War buffs, and we can nerd out. So, love Gettysburg as a town. Of course, we were there specifically for the Relic show. So just to give you kind of an idea of how I do these shows, specifically in Gettysburg, first thing I do when I wake up is I go to the Gettysburg Chocolate Market. That is where I get the best coffee in town. That's where I go. I'm not a sponsor of the show, but I'm just sharing you a local business that I use every single time I'm in Gettysburg. This is where I get my coffee. It's located right there in the center of the historic district. So I've actually never had their chocolate. It looks delicious, and I believe they do a lot of their baking on premise. One day I will, and probably maybe I'll bring some back for friends and family. This is a great place to go, that even if you're not a Civil War buff, or let's say you're bringing the kids and maybe they're not into the Civil War, I guarantee they'll find something they're interested here. So anyway, let's kick it off at the show. All right, we are at the show, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a great time. So, a lot of dealers here, and I will be hunting for Civil War images. We'll keep looking. The hunt continues, bumping into a lot of great people. A lot of really exotic things out here, so I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope to bring the experience to you. So as you can see here, this was dealer setup. It costs, I think it was around $100 to pay to actually attend the extra day. So usually it's open to the public on Saturday, Sunday. The extra day was Friday when the dealers set up. I like attending the dealer setup because, one, it just builds the atmosphere, right? You're seeing people bring in all sorts of relics and set up on their tables. But if you're looking for something specific for your collection, this is kind of where you get first dibs, right? This is when you can get to the show early, see exactly what vendors are bringing in, and if you see something you like, you can probably get a deal before anyone else is allowed into the show, right? Everyone else is waiting another 24 hours before they get to have eyes on some of these amazing artifacts. And as you can see here, you're going to see some amazing things at these shows. Here's a Confederate coat. You're not going to see stuff like this out in the wild. It is truly a museum, essentially a museum with price tags, right? One thing I recommend is you always bring a bag. Okay, I usually bring a small satchel, something just to carry with you, because you never know. You might see things you like to purchase, and then suddenly, without a bag, you have nowhere to put those items. So now you're doing this weird juggling act. I made that mistake of not having a bag. So what I ended up doing was going to a military surplus store in town, and I was able to get a small arms ammo pouch, believe it or not, that would fit right on my belt. And that clipped to my belt. I walked around the show and I was able to put my camera in there and all the things that I did in fact purchase. And it was just the perfect bag to have for this sort of event. And so I might share a picture of it, but it was just great to have that. And that was probably one of my favorite things to have from my trip to Gettysburg. Here's Colt Massiey. He's going to share some of the stuff that he brought to the show.
Hey guys, Colt Massiey with Massey's Antiques. Today we're here at the Gettysburg Civil War Show. We're showing off some amazing images. We got a whole lineup of different stuff. Show off this first image. We'll try to get it the right angle for you. This is a daguerreotype, about 1850s period range. of an awesome officer, tinted up, sharp as can be, an amazing Civil War image you only find at Massey's Antiques. Yeah, we're here at the Gettysburg Civil War show today, showing you off a amazing Civil War tintype. Now, what is cool about this tintype, it's not something you normally see in a Civil War image. It is an outdoor scene. Not only is it an outdoor scene, it is an outdoor scene with a company of Union soldiers. One thing I love about it is the American flag, which is kind of blurry because it's moving and needs a little time to develop in the photo. But you got an American flag over there, the drummer boy, officers, everybody's lined out. One also cool thing about this image to me is the Civil War era train car right there in the back, kind of inconspicuous, you wouldn't know it's there, and all the buildings. Not something you're going to see every day, just a super cool image. This is a six-plate ambrotype of a Union soldier holding a bugle. One thing I've thought about this image that was always really neat is notice the cord tied around the bugle. Not something you always see in the bugle images. A lot of times they're just kind of free holding and it's just hanging. Something cool about this is it's also published in Military Images magazine. Super great image. Something you're not going to see every day, but an awesome piece.
Sponsor of the show, actually.
Yep.
Images magazine.
That's it. Throw and plug. Quarter plate tintype here of something you won't see very often. This is what we call a 1800s alcoholic. He's got his whiskey glass, looks like a wine bottle maybe there propped up, having a good day. Not something you're going to see every day in Civil War photography, but something that's very cool and unique.
Colt Massiey is an absolute gentleman. I've purchased a couple items from him. As you can see, he always brings his A game, and he's always got some amazing, amazing Civil War images, and he just spoke about a few of those. I'm always impressed by his images, the clarity, content. He really does bring some amazing items to the show, and he sells them on his website, so if you look him up, everything is on his website as well. This was a neat display I saw here. I didn't know if these were Confederate pikes or maybe even one of Rush's lances. That would be amazing if that were the case, but I would love to get, if anyone knows, I would love to get more information on those lances, on those pikes. Speaking of Rush's Lancers, this is also a sword that is going up for auction that belonged to a member of Rush's Lancers, the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry, so that's pretty cool. And coming up here is Frank of the historic York Street Manor in downtown Gettysburg.
Welcome to, unfortunately, Lincoln's demise. He stopped at different places going, back to Springfield and everything. One of those places was Buffalo, New York. And this actually is cloth that hung over his coffin in Buffalo, New York. And also the train schedule with the pilot schedule too, which is super rare. And some writing on the back of a CDV here. Somebody said they paid $2,000 for the casket and stuff like that, which is a ton of money. Ton of money back then. And there's a little note there that really gives it the provenance that these people were probably just there, well-to-do, Congress, anything like that. And that's how this relates to everything. I actually got this back at Gettysburg here like 15 years ago, and still in my collection. And here is the ultimate witness tree. As in Gettysburg, in any battle, a witness tree is a tree that stood there, like at Mr. G's ice cream in downtown, Twin Sycamore they called it. They had to cut one down, and this is actually a tree that was there and grew up over a Colt Navy barrel. I've never seen one like this ever. And I talked to the dealer who originally found it, and he wanted it back. I could see why, because it's just the coolest thing. No place on earth do you have a Civil War. And a really neat thing is the bottom, which links it to Bob's Restaurant. And the guy who relic hunted it and found it, he remembered eating there as a kid. So and it was behind the counter at the restaurant. That's just cool. And then you look at it, several things I have here are relics that just turned out to be something phenomenal. Beautiful war log, not as big as the other ones that are 5 feet or 4 feet. This one has been hit by bullets, round balls, and it's just a cool relic. And it's you can place it anywhere in your house. This gavel was actually part of a GAR, and it's got engraving on it, the silver engraving. And it says the head was part of the stockade at Andersonville Prison, and the handle was made from the tree that was struck by lightning. Never saw this before. Awesome artifact. It's not your average gun, as you can tell. Somebody drilled many things in here, and it's an 1863, and it's from a GAR hall. And what they did, and it wasn't even issued, so even though it's rusty and everything like that, probably because they hung their wet coats on it, and that's why you see the discoloration of it there. But just a neat thing, a novelty, and you don't see this stuff. All right, beautiful pre-Civil War blanket. It was found in Antietam, Maryland, Sharpsburg, and there's a note that goes with it, and it says this: blanket in which Captain Henry R. Jones was wrapped in when exchanged as wounded as a prisoner of war, left for dead on the battlefield. And Antietam Confederate soldiers took him in because he was wounded several times, and they wrapped him in this blanket. Probably got it from a house when they were pillaging and stuff like that. And that's just one of the most phenomenal things, and that's what came with it.
So I'm going to put a link for the historic York Street Manor in the description here, so that if you are interested in staying at the manor, this is a manor right there in Gettysburg where Civil War soldiers camped outside, where Union soldiers actually retreated past this home during the battle. So definitely want to check that out. I'll definitely be reserving a room there. Here we have the Excelsior Brigade. They always bring their A game, sponsors of the show. You've got images that are of wounded, Medal of Honor recipients. You've got images of killed in action, KIA. You've got images of even Gettysburg related images. In the collecting community, we often say, purchase the item, not the story. Okay? When it comes to the Excelsior Brigade, a lot of their images are not only ID'd, they're highly researched. And so this is the one exception where I'll say you can buy the story, because those images that he has, they're ID'd, they come with the story, they come with the story of the soldier, the experience of the soldier. It is really amazing, the work that has gone into researching all these different images. In fact, he doesn't only just sell ID'd images. The Excelsior Brigade, they sell letters, and I've bought a few collection of letters from them. Just phenomenal stuff. And of course, let's see who I bumped into out here in the wild at this show.
So I just bumped into Ron Coddington out here in the wild. Who knew?
Just running around.
Great friend of the show, the person who actually got me into Civil War portraits, Civil War portrait photography, and now I'm trapped. I'm stuck in this world.
We're stuck together.
And it's been a hell of a ride, but you're out here. I know you've been on the hunt. If you could share with us some of the images that you picked up today.
Absolutely. And so glad to be here. I'm glad we ran into each other. We'll go left to right. This first image, and all of these are cartes de visite, so paper images about the size of a trading card. This first individual, you can see that he's been wounded in the leg. He has his crutches. He has a hospital gown on, and hospital gowns, images of soldiers wearing these hospital gowns, they're so extremely rare. I don't think I've ever seen an individual standing with the robe on. And on the back of the image, You can see it's got an Alexandria backmark. Alexandria had a bunch of hospitals, and so clearly he had stopped by a gallery. He was feeling better, and something that really strikes me about it is when you first glance at it, it doesn't necessarily feel military, but then you see just that hint of his vest with the brass buttons. And if that wasn't enough, you then see his hat, that nice flat pork pie hat with his hat brass on it. That just, he's telling us, I've been wounded, I'm fighting for the cause, I'm fighting for the Union, I'm out of the hospital, I'm on the road to recovery, but I still have a ways to go.
I like
the
to
story
call
is
these
there.
the red badge of courage image, you know?
Yes.
He's showing his red badge of courage.
Yes.
And
yes.
Are those even slippers or?
Yes, it appears that he's wearing a slipper on his injured foot. So it's got a really interesting content. And then of course you have the photographer's backdrop, a more like a bucolic scene, which almost adds, it's almost the opposite of war. You got this peaceful scene behind this young warrior who is on the road to recovery. So it really speaks to me.
And of course this one here, there's a lot going on here as well.
Yes, this is an image that comes out of Boston. The photographer is Alan on Winter Street. And I love this image because he's clearly has a personalization. He wants us, he's got his shell jacket on, and he's personalized his look. The pipe coming out of his mouth. He's holding his revolver. You can see his sergeant's chevrons going on. He's unidentified right now. We don't know who he is. I would love to find out his identity, but we have a lot of clues. If you want to think about this from a detective point of view, all his insignia, the weapon, the pipe, his sideburns, the long boots, we have a sense of who he is. Now if we can use some face recognition technology through Civil War photo sleuth, that's going to be my next step to try to find out who he is.
And that's a unique looking revolver too, so maybe you
Yes.
can find out what units were issued that, unless it was a private purchase type of thing. We don't know, right?
Yes, probably I would imagine a private purchase, but another avenue to research. And of course, since it was taken in Boston, a starting place would be to think that he's a Massachusetts soldier. So great piece.
And amazing facial hair, right?
Yeah, that alone.
Yeah. And this is cool too because these buttons, these subdued buttons, what
Yes.
does that mean?
The subdued buttons tells us that he's a chaplain, and this was a rank. The uniforms were evolving very early in the war. Chaplains looked the same as another officer. They had the brass buttons and they showed their rank, but in the early part of the War Department passed some legislation for a more subdued look, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. And we know who he is, this man with the beard and the spectacles. This is Alonzo Quint of the 2nd Massachusetts Infantry. He was all over the place, highly respected minister, and was in Washington, did wedding ceremonies, did patriotic talks, and of course ministering to the men. And the 2nd Massachusetts, deep experience in the Army of the Potomac and all the major battles. So his responsibility of taking care of his flock, all of those men in the 2nd, an enormous responsibility, and did it so very well.
Absolutely fantastic. You know, it's interesting because usually in the collecting community, people say, you know, buy the item, not the story. But when it comes to images, there's always a story. You know,
Yes.
there's always a story. And that's what
Yes.
I think the images are an exception to the rule.
Yeah, and you know, even whether they're identified or not, you begin to get some sense because they want us to see them this way, and then this is what they want us to see. So they're telling us their story. So what is that story? And that's where for me, that's where the passion comes into play.
And we've got one last one here, right?
Yeah, this is Isaac Nickel, an image that I have seen other prints of this image, and there's variations on this particular pose. This version, he was in the 124th New York Infantry, the Orange Blossoms, which is a well-known regiment, and they are well known for Chancellorsville, where their colonel, Augustus Van Horn, I believe is his name. I got to check my notes on that, but he gives them the name. Orange County, New York, the Orange Blossoms. Come on, my Orange Blossoms at Chancellorsville. His name is Isaac Nickel, and he's the captain of one of the companies. A couple months later at Gettysburg, when they find themselves at Houck's Ridge, right next to Devil's Den, they're right in the foreground as regiments from Georgia are coming across the triangular fields. He's out there in front. He's killed. His body is out there. A number of Georgians overlap. They rifle his body. They take his pocket Bible. They carried the Bible with them through the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. During the retreat, as they're heading through Pennsylvania, they go into a farmhouse. The farm family, husband and wife, are there. The wife overhears them as they're reading Isaac Nickel's Bible, and they read aloud a note that Isaac had put in the Bible to send the Bible home if something had happened to him, send it to his father in New York. And she talks the Georgia officers out of the Bible and says, hey, I'll take that from you and I'll make sure that the father gets it. I write the story. It appears, and at the time, I was writing for the New York Times Disunion series, so we're looking during the 125th anniversary. Oh, is that right? Sorry, the 150th. It's published, and then I'm contacted by the family to tell me they still have the Bible. And they send me images of the Bible with the original flag. A small flag is wrapped around this Bible, and it's a prized possession, obviously, of the family. So for me, I didn't know that the Bible existed, and here is the man that carried it and lost his life fighting for the Union at the Battle of Gettysburg, right here where we are, July 2nd.
Thank you so much for sharing these images, and this is just some of the magic that happens at these
Yes.
shows, so definitely come out. Right?
Yes, come visit.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much,
Thank
Paul.
you.
So there you go. That was the show. Of course, when you go on a trip like this, everyone's going to want souvenirs and gifts. So I always go to Gettysburg Goods. Here is a souvenir shop, essentially, that sells items that are made by locals, I believe. A lot of the photography, a lot of the artwork, a lot of the shirts, even the prints on the shirts that you see are all designed by local artists. They've got Gettysburg olive oil here. They've got Gettysburg soda. You know, they've got a little bit of everything here. So this is a great place to stop by to pick up those souvenirs and gifts that you're going to have to bring home to everyone that babysat the dog while you were away. Okay, and speaking about this, I love this shirt, Gettysburg, a drinking town with a history problem. I did do some drinking there, and some of the whiskey that I drank was from Mason-Dixon Distillery. Very, very cool distillery there. Some really good whiskey that I enjoyed while I was in town. Of course, where do I like to drink personally? Where do I like to eat personally? Well, especially on this trip, I went to the Sign of the Buck. It is a fine dining experience, more or less, in the center of Gettysburg. And the bartender, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. I can't say enough great things about her. She definitely put up with us while we were in town. And she made me the best old-fashioned I've ever had. So, great time had by all. I also recommend the Sign of the Buck. This is how you want to end the Civil War show, right? You begin with some great coffee, go to the show and see some amazing relics, and then get yourself over to the Sign of the Buck and enjoy a nice cold drink after a long day of on the hunt for Civil War portrait photography. So thank you all for watching the show. I hope you really enjoyed that as much as I did. And I hope that I will see you at the next show, wherever that may be. So please keep liking and sharing and spreading the gospel of Untold Civil War. Bye for now.